Hi everyone, it's Sarah, one of the creative contributors for the Lavinia Stamps team, and today I'm going to show you how I made this Apothecary Tin. I made one donkeys years ago full of fairy wings and fairy hats and that kind of theme, and I've been wanting to do something like that for a long time. So think those days if you were like me when you made rose petal perfume in the garden in the summer, collecting the fallen rose petals, putting them in water. You know, there was something about making those mixtures when you were little. So that's where I was coming from with this. So inside we have some potions. And I've just used 2 little bottles. These are Tim Holtz Ideology vials, but with a little bit of glitter and the labels from the Spellbinding Remedies sets. And then decided to create space for a little tiny book. It's just stamped pages, a very, very quick way to make a little book. But you could put anything in there. You could make a whole set of bottles. I think once you get going, you could explore all sorts of things with this project. So let's get started. Now I'm going to start with adding these gilding flakes on here. You should use gilding glue. I used my Bippity Boppity, and actually it's done a pretty good job, you know. That's well stuck to that lid. So if you've got gilding glue, I would recommend that. But if you haven't, it doesn't mean that you can't do this project. I'm using the Glamour flavour of gilding flakes. We're going to start by adding some glue onto here. Now, let's see where we... Oh, yeah. I had to clear out the top the other day. Now, I'm a bit of finger spreader with things like this because it's easier to wash my finger than it is to wash a paintbrush. Let's clean that up a little bit. Just going to put that side just to give it a little chance to get a little bit tacky. So we'll go back to that. Get those gilding flakes and let's try not to breathe and make them go everywhere. Now when you first get a pot, you'll have lots of quite big pieces like this, which just go beautifully on the top of here. But as you use them more and more, you'll end up with it, because the pieces that you brush off, you'll see, you just keep all those. And so as you use your pot, you'll get smaller and smaller pieces, which are still usable. That's absolutely fine. It's obviously just, well, if you had lots of little pieces and you didn't have any of these big ones, you'd just be like splodging them all over, and they would find their home on the glue. So like I said, you can choose whatever gilding flakes you've got. I'm just using Glamour. And there we go. There were some big pieces in there, weren't there? So I'm just going to... I'm not rubbing it because the glue's still wet underneath. It'll just rub off. So I'm dabbing it with my finger just to make sure I've covered all my areas. Although to be fair, because it's a tin and it's the same colour as some of these gilding flakes, it doesn't really matter if you've got some missing pieces. Don't worry about pieces that are layered over each other, they'll come off. And I'm not worrying about the edge at the moment either, because that's very easy to sort out once this glue has dried. And I'm gonna tap like that. Look at it, it's all raggedy around the edges. And just for now, I'm going to put those little tiny bits back in the pot because they will all get used at some point. Who knows how many years it'll take me to use up that pot. But so let's pop that there. I'm going to put it in my box just so that I don't bash it. And put it on one side to dry. and we'll do our label here. So this is with Distress Oxide inks, and I've got Hickory Smoke and Twisted Citron, and I'm going to be also using the Lime Punch one. You can use these together so you get really nice textures if you start to play around with them together. And all I'm going to do is dab my Hickory Smoke onto my block, spritz it with some water, just lightly, because can you see those little splatters of like little ink drops? That's what I'm after. And we'll start on this piece. If you press it down holding the card, you've got a bit more control about kind of kissing the card. That's what Tim Holtz refers to as. You're just dabbing it on there to get those little bits. I'm just gonna dry that. Oh, I should have used that actually. Let's go again. Want some on here as well, don't I? I think I'm going to go mainly around the edge on this one. Now, when I did the first one, I did it on a longer piece than this. It's a bit tricky with one hand and a big block. I just want to go around the edge on those. Let's give it a blast with the heat gun. And this is all about layers, and it's best to have those layers dry in between. Get rid of those. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. I'm going to go now with the Twisted Citron. Just the same technique, squidge a bit on, spritz with your water. And you'll find it depends how much ink, you know, how concentrated I guess the ink is on your block, what kind of the size of your ink droplets on here. I love this because it's not predictable. I can't predict what this is going to be like. I've got a bit of control. I can, like you saw, I can kiss the paper and just get those little tiny drops, and I can turn it around so I know where they're going to be. But I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I find if I'm trying to get it in a certain place, I'll get frustrated. If I just let it be what it will be, I can respond to how it is on the card, and I'm much happier. So that's my technique anyway. I think that's probably enough. So there we go. Let's give that I'm going to give this a quick blast. And there we are. Apothecary stamp, which I've buried under my... So this is going to go on here with the words underneath. So I found that it was best to start with these little ones. Put that down there, and then I'm just using Nocturne. You could use one of the darker browns or blues, like Fallen Leaves, or whatever that midnight one is, the really dark blue, or even a dark green. Play around with what you like and what works for you. So for those corners. So there we go. And I've not quite inked up that stamp I've missed, well, it's kind of missed a little bit, but to be honest, I think you can get away with it with this kind of project. Any kind of what you might consider mistakes in your stamping, you can get away with because it's an old label. So, there we are. And then I'm just going to grab the lime punch elements and a stencil brush. Just rub that off. Actually, that would work really well, wouldn't it? That's green parrot, and this is a lime punch. So you do you. In fact, we could use both, couldn't we? And I'm just going around the edge and a bit inside. Rid of some of that white. Just layering it up. Shall we add a bit of green parrot while we're there? It's super juicy because it's new. Beautiful. I'm going to get a bit of texture in that by spritzing it lightly with water and heating it at the same time. What I'm also going to do is go back and add a little bit more grey. Just because I want to. I feel like it would just add a bit more. So, light spritz. Let's add some of that. Just some of that texture. Those little bits of speckles that you get on old labels, don't you? Not maybe not this colour, but you do get brown speckles, you see. So I'm having a look on my block and just seeing where those are. Yeah. So there we go. That's my label. Let's see if this is looking stuck. Now, can you see how easy that is to rub off around the edges? So no trimming. It's very pleasing, actually. No trimming. I just brush your finger around. I'm doing it quite lightly. I'm not rubbing hard. This thing. Okay. Now, on my sample, I used some of the green moss scatter from the Enchanted Mushroom Kit. You can buy the reindeer moss separately. And we're going to be using that in here anyway. It holds the bottles together. Those two twigs from my garden. So yeah, so they'll be in there. You'll be using that anyway. So what I've done is kind of made my own grass scatter. So what I did was got a bit of the reindeer moss, just a bigger piece than that anyway, and then just snipped it, tiny bits. It made me think of snipping bits of herbs for cookery, which I felt rather fitted with the apothecary theme of making potions and tinctures and such like. So as you can see, I've got a little pot of that, which I'm going to edge my label. Oh, we need to add our little toadstools. They're from the lamp set, and they're one of my favourite tiny toadstools to use. And I'm having them as if they're growing out of the top of one of the letters. So let's pop that on there. Apologies to anybody who's finding that my mucky stamps and acrylic blocks are a bit much, but you're probably not doing one of my workshop watching one of my videos if you're a particularly clean person, I wouldn't have thought. But prove me wrong in the comments. There we go. So what I did was used a bit of paper, covered up the word, and then it looks like the little toadstools are growing out of the T and the H. What we're going to do is we're going to add our bibbity bobbity glue to glue this down. So we'll add the label. Like that. Make sure it's in the middle. And then what we'll do is, oh, attached to my baby wipe, we shall add some glue around here. Just want it to edge the label. And we'll add some of that, our homemade moss scatter. To the tin. There we go. If you don't feel like you can add the glue that lightly, just find a tiny brush. So I'm going to dab down that moss that I've trimmed, like more than where it is, as you can see. But then once that glue's dried and we tip it off, in fact I should probably tip a bit off now, then it'll obviously just stick where the glue was. It just gives more of the trimmings opportunity to stick. It just gives us the idea of you've been in the herb garden to make your tinctures. So again, I'm going to put that onto one side.